2024. And proceed to roll call, please.
Bill Clinton,
Present.
Brown, Roberto Castillo,
Present.
Elvira Diaz,
Present.
Rose Mesa, Akia Spencer,
Present.
Mike Spencer.
Present.
We have a forum.
Excellent. I would like to move to public comment. Thankfully, we have 2 public comments today. The first would be from David Morlett with SCAC Ambassador Program.
Hello.
How you doing, David?
Good. My name is David Morlett. I'm on the Spark Citizen Advisory Committee. Last year, we started an ambassador program, and my mission for this, when I first proposed this, was to get us out of these chambers and into the city. Our motto is, "It's happening here." So I wanted to be where it was happening. And my goal is to fill these seats. And I know a lot of our boards and committees aren't well attended, but a lot of people have a lot to say. So part of this program was just to kind of get the word out. So this is what I'm doing now. I go to a lot of business openings. I try to make as much contact as possible. It's been a little slow going, I admit, but basically, I'm here to kind of rally some support and to offer my support to you guys. If you guys need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm easy to get a hold of. If you need my contact information, I can get it for you guys. But I really want to get attendance up. We have a lot going on. And when we're out there involved in this, we can talk about what we do. And when we talk about what we do, we generate interest. And we can reach that communication. Like I was just talking to Councilman Paul Anderson back here. We are a medium to Sparks City Council and Sparks leadership. We have their ear. And a lot of people are intimidated by the title or the name or what have you, and we're easier to talk to for a lot of people. So I'm inviting you guys to come out on July 17th. You guys are available at 5:30 here for Spark Citizen Advisory Committee. And hopefully we can start doing some networking and some growing and get this thing going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next public comment will be from Hunter Bond, representing non-English.
Sorry.
You're good, Hunter.
Hello, I'm Hunter Rand. I am a compliance officer at a local estate planning firm and a managing partner at a multimedia agency in town. And in both of those positions, I found myself working with non-English speakers of all languages, mainly Spanish and Tagalog. And specifically, I know that we have you're speaking on the language accessibility plan today, and it's something I haven't really thought about. Weird thing, I can read and write in Spanish. I can't speak it, and I can barely understand it, but I can read and write in Spanish. And so at the estate planning firm that I work at, we started with some Spanish-speaking colleagues. We spent 2 weeks, which is very expensive for an estate planning firm, where we did nothing except translate legal documents into Spanish about living trusts and things. And then we presented them to the Spanish-speaking community for the first time. And we had people weeping in the audience because even the Spanish-speaking attorneys, they happen to speak Spanish, but they don't practice in Spanish. And to some extent, we don't either, because we are, the law's in English and the final product's in English. Every probate is in English. But just hearing kind of the stories about this is the first time that they've been cared about is super cool. And with my other clients through my agency, working on websites and things, and just hearing like how they want to engage with that community is really special. And so for me to hear that the city of Sparks is now looking into it, it's super exciting for me. I think it'd be amazing to make it easier to access the website, to access city resources. I think a big one that's come up is the business licensing. I think the one, what's it called? One access, whatever it's called. As an English speaker, it's horrible. And I can imagine if you're a Spanish speaker and you're using the Google Chrome Auto Translate, it's also horrible. And I know that there's other ways to access it, but it'd be very just amazing if people of other languages could also access it the same way that I do, instead of having to jump through hoops. And so I'm in support of anything that makes the city and its resources, business licensing, things like that, more accessible to not just Spanish speakers, but speakers of all languages. And I know there's vendors that do that. I think that's a problem for another day to figure out how are you going to do it. But I know and I know the census breaks down zip code, not by ward, so I apologize, but 89431, that's where I live. 34% of the residents speak Spanish at home, I believe, as of 2020. Don't quote me on that, but that's the census. And I know there's a lot of Tagalog speakers that maybe don't live in Sparks but do business in Sparks that participate in our community here. So it'd be really special. I'm just excited that our city even has this board, and that anyone here cares about people that don't speak English, because I can say there's lots of places in this country that don't. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much. All right, next we're going to move to the approval of the agenda. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I want to make a motion to approve. I
Next, I'd like to move to approve the minute. Does anyone like to make a motion?
Michael Scherzer motion to approve the minute.
I, Akia Sanders, second the motion to approve the minutes for June 11th.
Excellent. Next, we'll have presentations, and our presentation will be from the City of Sparks regarding the resident survey. And we have Allison.
Good evening, Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board members. For the record, I'm Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager. As you will see on your screen, I am not ETC Institute. That is the vendor that the city retained to conduct a resident survey for the City of Sparks at the recommendation of this board. Because I am not ETC Institute, I'm going to pass over their qualifications and experience and move on to the guts of the survey. The purpose of the survey was to assess resident satisfaction with city services, compare the city's performance against benchmarks from across the country and the region, and to help determine priorities where the city should focus its efforts moving forward. This was the first resident survey conducted for the city, at least in decades, maybe ever. We conducted the survey by mail and online by sending it to a random sample of households within the city, seeking representation from each ward. The survey took about 15 to 17 minutes to complete. Ultimately, we received 571 completed surveys, at least 100 from each ward. The margin of error is plus or minus 4.1% at the 95% level of confidence. And what that means is that if we conducted this survey 100 more times, it would be within, the results would be within plus or minus 4.1%, 95 out of those 100 times. This map shows generally where the survey respondents were. It's a little hard to see on your screens, but each red dot is the approximate location of where someone who took the survey resides. Some key highlights at the outset. 84% of residents indicated that they were either very satisfied or satisfied with living in the city. That is more than 30 points above the US and regional averages. So we are knocking it out of the park in that regard. Most respondents also felt that the city was heading in the right direction. 63% said so, and 79%, indicated that they were either very satisfied or satisfied with their quality of life in their neighborhood. And another key highlight on the downside, top priorities for improvement is condition of streets, pavement, and sidewalks, and enforcement of city codes and ordinances. Getting into some of the nitty-gritty of the data, 27% of respondents said that they were very satisfied, and 56% said they were satisfied with the city of Sparks as a place to live. Only 12% were neutral, and less than 6% were either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. Similarly, satisfaction with quality of life in neighborhoods and the city more broadly is very high, over 70% in both of those categories. And then one of the challenges, looking down to the bottom of your screen, affordability of housing options. We are pushing 50% unsatisfied, so that's certainly an area of concern. Some other areas for concern, as mentioned before, towards the bottom, condition of streets, pavement, and sidewalks in Sparks. More than 25% of folks are either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, and 29% are dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with enforcement of city codes and ordinances. This map indicates where folks were either satisfied, neutral, or dissatisfied on average within each block. So a lot of the northern parts of the city were satisfied on average again, whereas down here in Ward 1, we have some dissatisfied folks, which makes sense. Those are older neighborhoods with older streets that have seen more wear and tear. With code enforcement, similar structure here. The yellow is neutral on average, the blue is satisfied, and then that orange section is dissatisfied, again, on average. This is just a pie chart indicating that folks, 63% of people were believed that the city was heading in the right direction of those who contacted the city online during the past year. Going back to affordability, roughly, excuse me, 31% of folks said that they strongly agree with the statement that they were worried or stressed about paying essential bills in the past year. On the positive side, more than 45% said they disagree or strongly disagree with that statement, but still 30% plus is a concern with affordability. This is this other question. Towards the bottom here, you'll see a lot of strongly disagree, but that question is asking if they experience discrimination when seeking city services. So we want to see a strong disagree with that statement. The city does promote diversity in communities. 43% of folks said they either agreed or strongly agreed with that statement, so that's a positive. And then other folks were apparently open to having an immigrant household living in their neighborhood. Now, comparing the city to other areas, so here the mountain region, so our region, is in yellow bars. The national average is in red, and then Sparks is in blue. So again, we are doing really well as the city of Sparks as a place to live. People are very satisfied with that. Same with overall quality of life in the city. Same with the city as a place to raise a family. We're about average in the Mountain West region as a place to retire, but substantially above the US average. Falling behind a little bit in overall feeling of safety in the city. Above average both regionally and nationally for overall quality of services. A little above average for overall value you receive for taxes and fees, and then below both the regional and substantially below the national average as far as the education system. Getting into additional services, fire services, very high rate of satisfaction, more than 20% above the regional average. Emergency medical services above both the regional and national averages. Sewer and wastewater services, parks and rec facilities and programs, all above the national and regional averages. Police services about even with the national average and a little bit above the regional. And then pretty similar to the averages going through the rest of those services. Priorities for investment. One of the things that staff really liked about working with ETC Institute is they did what they call an important satisfaction analysis. So they compare how residents rate certain services or programs as far as importance against how satisfied residents are with those services to make recommendations on where to focus to really make the biggest impact in the community. So as I mentioned at the outset, the two main areas that were identified through that important satisfaction analysis were condition of streets, pavement, and sidewalks, and code enforcement. Quite a few residents said that these were very important services, while they were not real thrilled with how the city's doing in those areas. So comparing those two sets of data on those two issues, they come up with the most important ranking, which was 1 and 3 for those two issues respectively. And then as far as satisfaction goes, they ranked 8 and 10 respectively, which based on ETC's methodology leads to important satisfaction rating of 1 and 2. So those are key priorities for the city moving forward to make the biggest impact on residents' perceptions. Communication was a major area in the survey as well. People are generally satisfied with the city's communication. Its appearance, current and relevant information, ease of navigation, lots of those areas that are important in getting messages out there through the city's website. Folks indicated that if they interacted with the city in the last year, 40% were interacting for a question, 28% for a request, 28% for a complaint, and a sad 5% for compliments, but we'll take them when we can get them. Folks were generally satisfied with how easy it was to get the services that they needed to receive from city employees. So many people said that departments were easy to contact, staff were courteous, staff had the technical knowledge and competence to provide the assistance that was needed, and then generally people were satisfied with their customer service experience. We have just under 20% who were neutral on that front and 15% who were either satisfied or dissatisfied. Regarding city communications further, this was surprising to me, frankly, perhaps because I'm a millennial, but over 60% of people get their news and information about the city of Sparks from local news. So that is a key area for the city to focus on in our ongoing communication efforts. 53% from the city's website, so another area to continuously improve upon. And then working down from there, word of mouth, mailers and flyers, and then varieties of social media, radio, etc. So in summary, we've got a lot of folks in our community who are satisfied or very satisfied with how the city is doing, living here, and the direction that we're going in. But again, two top priorities for improvement are condition of streets, pavement, and sidewalks, and code enforcement issues. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Elvira Diaz for the record. I'm going to tell you thank you so much, because I know you took a very active role to get this process going. And we're here like 2 years, this committee, and we'll have something solid that we can give to the community. Means that we can listen to the people, we can improve, and we're going to be very happy to say that we're very proud people living in Sparks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Akia Sanders for the record. Was this also presented to the city council?
Yes, and the ETC Institute folks were present in person to present to city council at the second meeting in June, but they're from out of state, so they didn't come back for tonight's meeting.
Okay. And another question, Akia Sanders for the record. The two top priority issues, is there going to be a plan to remedy a solution?
We will be embarking on a bit of a strategic planning process in the next several months. So this data will absolutely be critical in how we focus those efforts. So I expect so, but I don't have a concrete plan to relay to you today.
Okay. And last and final question, Akia Sanders for the record. Once staff and city council work on the strategic planning and there is solutions implemented, can that be brought back to this board?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Roberto Castillo for the record. So I'm a little confused. It sounds like those two major things of concern are mainly city-style complexities: roads, sidewalks, streets. Have very little to do with diversity, culture, or any of that. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would.
And then code enforcement, that's basically the police or the fire doing their job, is that correct?
That is more about kind of community occurrence issues. My neighbor has weeds and no one's done anything about it, sort of thing. That's how I interpret.
Okay, so again, a little bit logistical in nature in regards to the functioning of the city.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my question is this. So the only two real things that I saw on there that in the scope of what we're doing here, education showed up on there. There was a slide that fared kind of low. I'd love to find out a little bit more information on what the thought process was of what the feedback was for that component of where it ranked and the satisfaction and everything else that was on that slide. I don't know if we can get additional information on that. And then the other one really has to do with local news. I agree with what you said. I don't know that I watch the news. I grew up, I'm a 80s, 90s kid, but that's basically how you watched your news, was on the TV. I guess my only additional question or feedback against this would be just how do we integrate, partly with what the two public comments were, to help the local news channels, whether it's 4, 8, 2, or 11, to kind of showcase who we are, what we do, who we've presented, what's been shown on a more cultural level and less logistical, because this seemed overly logistical. And maybe that's just my layman in understanding the assessed data points on there that have to do with, again, roads and stuff like that, which is all well and good, and we need good roads in order for the police to get to a scenario, or a firefighter to get to a particular issue with somebody having a heart attack or something like that. But part of the question of us being here is really how useful are the services that are being provided, and then how those are easily attainable through either language barriers, socioeconomic barriers, or even I guess TV or social delivery method for the information. Whether it's a joining of one of the TV stations or something like that. So those are the main points that I got out of that whole presentation. Thanks again. I know it's a lot of money, a lot of hours, and a lot of energy that has to be compiled into a very concise piece of information. But would love to dive a little deeper into that actual two facets on there. How do we get out more information and make the community more cohesive? And secondly, the one thing that I saw up there that's always a concern is schooling and education. And I think that blends over with, whether you're a minority or affluent or new to the area, or anything that has to do with just the day-to-day functions of being a person in Sparks. So
Thank you for that feedback and your questions. I would agree that kind of the key takeaways of the survey are more logistical in nature. Free code enforcement aren't top-line cultural issues that we generally think of. I do want to refer back to this map, though, where the only part of the city where the average of survey respondents were dissatisfied is an older part of the city, which generally is more socioeconomic challenged. So maybe that's an area where we need to focus our investment in that. We use other data as well, not just resident perceptions, to evaluate where to invest in streets, curbs, and gutters. It's called a condition index, PCI. We review every street at least once every 3 years, and that's critical data in determining where to dedicate resources for improvements like that. But I think this is another important data.
Roberto Castillo for the record. So to follow up to the question to that, so Ty, I appreciate you giving me this. I guess the follow-up question would be, do they feel like they're not being heard, maybe not being understood, maybe it's not as urgent, maybe it's not as functional for the people that are living there, that are socially, economically off-put by, because of the fact that I imagine this is, what's the yellow line? that
The
comes
yellow
all
is
across?
I-80.
That looks like that's around El Rancho and G Street. Is that correct? Where the orange starts to probably down this area. If I had to guess, would that be?
It's pretty
Yeah.
close to us.
And I guess if the tie-in is these areas are older, the streets are older, the sidewalks are older, the debris, the cars, the garbage, any of the stuff, is the disconnect also kind of comparatively with who we are, their lack of ability to efficiently tell the city there's an issue with these things besides the cultural aspect of it. Does that make sense what I'm saying, guys?
Yes.
So I guess that would be my question is, the follow-up is, if they are feeling like it's just taking longer, or if they're not being heard, maybe that's a concern with, and why is that? Is it lack of resources for that, 3-year assessment? Or is it, they feel like they can't come to the city and say, hey, I blew the tire on my way to work in July because that pothole's been there for X amount of time and I can't get any traction, anybody listen to me? I don't know. Whatever that thing is, I guess that would be the thing. And do they feel like they're empowered enough to be able to come to the city and say, hey, can you please help us with this? I guess is the gist. So, and I think that goes back to what the gentleman was saying with like probate and everything else. There has to be a seamless way for somebody to be able to explain a concern that they have for their family, or their property taxes being paid into the city, that could help out these older neighborhoods that are maybe more condensed with a certain cultural demographic in there.
I think to your point, I'm not sure the survey data doesn't get that detailed as to why they feel this way. But I can tell you, since we haven't done a survey either in decades or ever, we haven't asked.
Yes.
So I think asking, how satisfied are you with service X, is an important first step in building that communication in that.
Jarrell Green for the record. Allison, we cannot thank you enough for all the work that you put into this. Not only making sure that the assessment was done, but also aggregating the data and making information out of it, doing the critical thinking necessary. Pertaining to that, and this is where the conversation from Roberto was going as well, as the Equity and Inclusion Board, are there efforts that will take place, though? Because I think it is easy to look at that map and make the assumption that it is an older area. But also, I believe Mr. Morlett brought up earlier, that's also a demographic, is a former Ward 1 resident that has 34% of the population that speaks Spanish at home primarily. And to Roberto's point, maybe they don't know how to advocate for themselves. but also is there more at play there? And are there steps that the city could take, be it to do another survey specifically with that population or something to engage with them to see how can we best serve them? Because Roberto brought up some great points. If there's potholes that are then leading to people having blown out tires, not only is that costing them money, but potentially positions, or is part of the safety issue. I think we can make assumptions that safety always pertains to, oh, I feel threatened by another individual, but could safety be, I don't feel safe having my kid walk down the street because they don't have sidewalks to walk on. So to me, it seems like, could we potentially do further assessment to really get to the root cause of if there's a correlation between the condition of the streets, sidewalks, and pavements and safety overall. Because as you said, it's awesome. We have 84% of our population that's really happy. But if we can best serve those other 16% as well, I think we would be, asking the right questions as this board.
Absolutely. I think this survey is a first step. I don't know what steps 2, 3, 4, 5, infinity are. I think another important step in a couple of years is to do this survey or an updated survey and to continue to reiterate the survey and see how the data changes over time, whether the improvements that we are trying to make are actually.
Elvira Diaz, for the record, I would like to know also what the City of Spark Council think about the survey. Maybe when they listen to this, maybe, I don't know, you guys ask the question, because we can outreach to them or advocate for this. You can see it's very clear, that target map to go with them to kind of advocate and, don't wait 2 more years for, we can do survey again, but do some action right away. Because if you see the map, it's only one little map, very small portion. And maybe I can talk to, for example, my city council that's in front of me. I can ask him, can you please help me to focus in that area as the ward, I think it's ward number 1, that one. So we can ask, so that when they plan the next year, the funds, they focus input, maybe fixing the streets and stuff. Like, for example, I remember where I live, we bother my city council about crossing the street. I think my neighbors bothering him all the time. They see me, see him. And they put a sidewalk, and it's something could be something simple. But I think this is the first step, but I think people are going to feel listening. So I'm very proud of this, because at least we know where we can make difference. Sometimes change cannot do overnight, needs to have some kind of analysis. I so really appreciate all these, my colleagues here and everybody to go forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Michael Scherzer for the record. Just on that, it looks like the blue areas tend to be the newer. I'm up in the blue area. I could just, knowing where construction is, so I assume that's probably one of the reasons. My question is, and I don't know if maybe you kind of addressed with Akia's question, one of the biggest things I see on Nextdoor or any social media thing is the lack of affordable housing. If the city has any plans to maybe try to workforce housing or something, or.
We have 2 projects that are in their very early stages to help with affordable housing. We received about $2.7 million from the state through the Home Means Nevada initiative. We have purchased 2 empty parcels in the core of the city for development as affordable housing. Those are still in the very early stages on requests for proposals from affordable housing developers to submit what they would like to do with those. So we're not going to have those projects up and running tomorrow by any means, but those are 2 of the important.
Cool. Thank you.
Akia Sanders for the record, and I'm sure you already know this because you guys have Amy and she's amazing. But if you don't get, I guess, any bites for your RFP process for developers, have you thought about moving forward and putting that out at, I just got invited to the Nevada Housing Coalition Forum. I think it's in 2 weeks. And then that's one, they always do an annual conference, and they flip-flop north and south. I believe last year it was in the south. This year it should be in the north. And that's just a solid hodgepodge of developers, affordable housing experts, like all in one room for 3 days. So we can talk offline if you need some help. Okay.
Yeah, my bet is that Amy Jones has thought about that
for
because
sure.
she is amazing.
Okay, cool.
but this is definitely her area of
Okay, cool.
expertise, not mine.
No worries. And then my other question, Kia Sanders for the record again, is are you going over these results with other boards?
That has not been my intention. This is the only board that I'm the staff liaison
For
for.
sure.
But, Mr. Morlet's here and
Yes,
he's
that was what I was thinking. Yes.
on our Citizens Advisory Committee. So that might be an appropriate place to take it next.
Perfect.
Michael Scherzer for the record again. If you want, we could talk about it offline. But I came here from Northern Virginia, I moved here from Northern Virginia. And one thing that Fairfax and Loudoun counties, which are some of the most expensive counties in the country, requires roughly 10% of all housing of any development to be affordable. And it's more for teachers, firefighters, police, people like that. But we could, if you want to talk about it offline, but I think that they also, so it's not separate. It's just you're limited to how long you have to hold the house for a certain period of time before you can sell it. So people can't just buy a house, keep it for 2 years, and then sell it.
Roberto Castillo for the record. So my question is, the next steps, you said they're second through infinitum in regards to steps, so we could take with this stuff. So again, my whole thing is, how do we communicate this to that little brown area, in other words, dissatisfied most efficiently? And I don't know how we do this. So do we put it on as an action step to maybe talk to the individual that's going to be head of that ward to see what their communication style is, to get out information ahead of how they set up for the budget, to let them know what the Tagalog community wants, or the Hispanic community wants, or the African American community wants, or a flyer assessment, a public announcement thing on, one of the news stations. How do we, now that we have all this, heavy duty compilation of information, the person that can actually stroke an order of such, how do we have an ability to talk to them to kind of get the ball rolling in the direction of how does one side talk to the other? Because I think it all goes back to people crying in the crowd. They're only crying because they've never been heard. So how do we help them be heard with the individual that is going to be the Ward 1? Is it a commissioner? City councilman? For that position that understands, hey, this is what they look like, this is what they sound like, this is what they hope for. These are the criteria, or what's the normal process that you guys take in order to assess where a single dollar goes in for X, Y, or Z. So
I think the strategic planning process that I mentioned before will be critical to that effort. That is not a fast process. Donald Abbott is the councilman for Ward 1. I continue that out and about in the community very frequently. So I think he probably has a on how the residents of the ward are feeling about the city and what their needs are. And this is another data point to use in making decisions about where.
So do we have a chance to talk to him directly, or do we have a chance to set up anybody I guess my question is, the board is set up to do what exactly?
Rogan, for the record, I'm the Ward 1 representative, so I can talk to Donald. Yes, absolutely. And to Allison's point, he's phenomenal and very invested in the ward and in the city in general. And I think actually you brought up a phenomenal point, because I think Donald will do his part. However, I think a question to be asked is, how can the city reinforce that the individuals in Ward 1 were heard? Because I think that's a beautiful thing we have the opportunity to do with this data, is say, hey, we have given you a voice, and we see it clearly, and we actually are working towards doing that. And that's where Donald could step in and say, this is a lengthier process. However, it is clear that we see there's an issue here, and rather than being happy with 84%, you're a big percent of our population as well, and we're going to do the work necessary. And maybe there's other data points from this we were able to discern, such as okay, we might need to use TV to do it. And to Mr. Marlowe's point earlier, with 34% of that population, Spanish being the primary language, maybe we need to get on Telemundo, maybe we need to use other outlets and that type of thing. And I apologize if I'm not giving Hunter the credit. I think it was Hunter. Sorry, Mr. Rand. Sorry, and one other point, actually, my education is, or my background is in education. And so to everyone's point, yes, we know education consistently comes up. However, Akia had brought up a great point. Allison, we know you're so busy. You don't have time to go to every other board. But one of the things that came to mind, we have an amazing Parks and Rec division and board. Is there potential to at least present this to them? Because I know some of our after-school programs or before-school programs do some amazing work. And so maybe them being aware of, hey, there's this huge dissatisfaction here. We know your staff's already overtaxed and overworked, but is there something we potentially could look at developing and implementing that would offer that additional support?
Yeah, Akia Sanders for the record. I'm just going to back up what Jarrell says. And my son is in the before and after school program, and they do homework with him. So I also want to remind this board that the state of Nevada is 48 in education, and that has a lot to do with funding. And I'm not going to go too far on my federal funding kick, but just in all, fairness, like,
Yes.
Washoe County is a representation of the state, which is a representation of where we sit nationally. So this is just not an isolated situation in City of Sparks.
And Elvira Diaz, for the record, education exactly is very important. And if you see this report, this place, Sparks, is good for people and families to live. But if we have kids, my daughter is coming, she's going to have a baby, and we want to have good education. We also can reach Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
My son went to before, after, and really they're helping a lot. And we need to make awareness of the community that we need to put priority in education. That way, this place can be even better place to live. Some college was, I think, was nursing college, is gone for Sparks, and I think it's one of bad part of some people I know that went into nursing, and the school disappeared, so they get handed. So we need to be very knowledge about that. And let me tell you, for me, UNR is doing an amazing job. Same thing as TNTC. So we need to kind of point the people from Sparks to utilize the service at UNR and TMTC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. All right, next to general business items for possible action. Consideration, discussion, and possible election of an Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board Vice Chair for a one-year term through June 2025 from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: Roberto Castillo, Elvira Diaz, Rose Meza, Akia Sanders, Michael Scherzer, T. Tran. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to put Akia Sanders for this position. I think Akia Sanders is being really super active in the community, not just in the community of Sparks, but I'm a community organizer. I go all the way. She's always in every community, not only her community, but she's everywhere. She brings great ideas. She connects with people. And, 2 years already with this committee, I think you're ready to do that. So who wants to second this?
I, Jarrell Green, motion to second the election of Akia Sanders is the Sparks and Equity and Inclusion Advisory Board Vice Chair for a one-year term through June 2025.
Yes. I need to move? Okay, yeah. Okay, you gotta say this proof and motion.
Okay.
That's the motion passed
Motion passed
unanimously
unanimously.
with the people here.
Roberto Castillo for the record. Can I get clarity on what a vice chair is?
Allison McCormick for the record. The vice chair is essentially the backup to the chair. So at our last meeting, Mr. Green was made the chair by motion. And so if he is unable to attend the meeting, Ms. Sanders would fill in, run the meeting.
Elvira Diaz, for the record. I just want to clarify. The previous meeting, sorry, many of you guys were not here and was vote to just vote without you guys. So, but I think this group of people, amazing people, we cannot just stay the power just once. So keep moving the roles so we can expand. So I'm very glad today that I passed the ballot for you, Gerald. I'm very happy. I'm very relieved. My full-time job is stressful, so it's nice to have now Akika Sanders, so we can encourage people who listen to this Facebook Live that we're going to be replaceable. We want you guys to replace us because we need to expand. I'm so happy in your first day. You had 2 public comments.
Me too, thank you.
I'm very excited. And then we have also the report. So today, I think for me, it's a very good day. So I want to congratulate the new chair and the vice chair for this committee. And thank you also, Paul Anderson, you're here. You're the one who found this committee. So thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, next we have public hearing, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding the draft language access plan for the city of Sparks.
Thank you again, Allison McCormick, your assistant city manager, for the record. Before you today is a draft language access plan for the city. This is required by AB 266, which passed in the 2023 session of the Nevada legislature. In short, the bill requires that the city develop and implement a language access plan to make sure that individuals with limited English proficiency, that could be that they speak Spanish as a first language, that they speak American Sign Language as a first language, any of those range of issues with English as a main means of communication, are able to access critical city programs and services. A public input process is also required as part of the bill, so this public hearing item is part of the city's public input process on it. The city has been working with regional and statewide partners, frankly, as well as the Governor's Office of New Americans to develop this draft language access plan. We relied heavily on drafts produced by our larger and more heavily resourced partners throughout the state. So we were grateful for that informal assistance. I have attached a draft of the language access plan to the staff report for review. It goes through kind of the background that I just outlined for you, general principles, which really hinge on ensuring that people have meaningful and equitable access to the city, whether that's parks and recreation programs, getting a business license, as Mr. Rand mentioned during public comment, any of those things that make living in this city worthwhile. We also outlined some of the city's current ongoing initiatives. For example, the city's website is translated through AI, to be fair, so imperfectly, but better than nothing, into more than 80 languages other than English. We also launched our Sparks in Espanol Facebook page back in 2020 to try to reach our Spanish-speaking population, especially during the pandemic. And we're continuing to grow that Facebook page. We also encourage bilingual employees to use those skills by providing bilingual and interpreter pay. So those are some of the things that we have ongoing. And then from there, the plan outlines some of the things that we need to do going into the future to keep improving language access for people with limited English proficiency. So it outlines some of the steps that we took in fiscal year 24, which just ended June 30th, some of the steps that we will take in fiscal year 25 or that are already in process, and then into fiscal year 26. With that, I am happy to answer any questions. Staff is not recommending a formal motion on this item. But I am certainly seeking any feedback that the board would provide. And we have agendized this for a public. So, Mr. Chair, if you would open it up for additional public comment whenever you so choose.
I would like to open it up for additional comment.
Elvira Diaz, for the record, I think language is very important. Like the person who just had the public comment before, English is my second language, so I'm the first one that I would like sometimes to have things in writing. I was on Zoom today, 5 hours in my job over Zoom. I didn't get 100% everything they say over Zoom, but my coworker texts me the things in Slack or in the, so I'm 100% understand what was going on. So if you guys implement this, we're going to break the barrier of people to kind of come here. For example, one good example, City Sparks, you can get your passport here. People don't know that. So people sometimes make a line also in the post office. They say, no, guys, I have a little secret, go City Sparks. They're very friendly. I have a business in Sparks myself. And I go to the little line, and the lady in front speaks Spanish. And I get nervous. I speak English, but when you're putting your money and it's your dream, you're so afraid to make something wrong. So implementation, I'm going to just talk about Spanish for me, but I'm going to think also other languages. In order for this city to grow, we're going to have newcomers, people who are investing, and we're going to really serve them. So I appreciate that you guys applying this new law and implementing, and if you need our help or some kind of input, we're here to help. Thank you.
Akia Sanders for the record, just like a clarifying question, because I know AB 266 provided financial support to municipalities in rolling this out. Is that correct? No,
It did not. It
Okay,
is an
so I know
unfunded
there was
mandate.
some like scuttlebutt about it not supporting like nonprofits, but through the Office of New Americans, there was supposed to be some funding available, and they even came to my office. We'll talk offline.
Okay,
All right, bye.
thank you. They absolutely provided logistical support and advice, but I have not heard of any funding available through them. So, sounds good. Thank you.
Roberto Castillo for the record. We have any billboards or visible stuff in Sparks in Spanish? See that this city green with "Hola, bienvenidos a Sparks" or "Hola, le queremos ayudar con todo esto" or "Hola. Is there any?
Not that I can think of. I know a couple years ago when we were having a lot of trouble recruiting for public safety roles, we rented a couple billboards for that purpose, but I can't think of any other billboards that we've had or used in any language, in English included.
It might be the tip of the iceberg to kind of say, hey, this is a language that we may have some affinity to, and there's websites that have "Hola" somewhere on them that wouldn't be overly expensive, and just the presence of that being in a city on McCarran, Prater, any would be of, huge help to just make them feel like, I don't know, Tagalog too. I mean, there's a huge, the AC/DC people, anybody, any demographic at all, even if it's a rotating functionary thing with obviously how we're hoping to translate some of these positions and opportunities and different things for the city. The second that that there's a paleteria in your neighborhood, because there's pictures of kids with a nice popsicle. So sometimes the visual is the easiest and most effective way to get the ball rolling. So I don't know if that would be a good something to mention or bring up or doing any kind of function to let them know about the fact that we're looking to put things for business licenses and everything in Spanish to help out the community. So again, I apologize because I never really know how to preface all these things, but
No, I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Jarrell Green for the record. Great point, Roberto. Thank you for bringing that up. Also, I couldn't help but notice, I think it was roughly 870 something members on the Espanol Facebook page. Once again, speaking a different type of language, but not necessarily Spanish. Has the city looked into utilizing QR codes? I know with the younger demographics, that's key. They don't like to engage with things that they have to type out or that they have to put much effort into. However, if they can utilize QR codes, and so for, you know, even listing how to access the website or things like that, having a QR code as opposed to actually listing out the website.
We have used QR codes, especially at recruiting events. For example, a few months ago, we did a job fair at Sparks High School, really focused on our part-time parks and recreation jobs. And we also had a puppy there, so that was helpful. So we got quite a few kids to scan the QR code
There we go.
and
Awesome.
look into the topics available.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roberto Castillo for the record. I think to tie in with Jarrell's point there, it'd be super easy to record just a service announcement with the mayor or any of the councilmen or women. Hey, these are the things that we're doing for the community, for the different cultural backgrounds, and it could just as easily be with a QR code that takes them to a thing, and it just showcases X, Y, and Z within a 30-second infomercial to just kind of get the ball rolling. My whole thing is how do you start it? Because there's all these things, but if it's like having a library where you've never walked into a library, those books might as well be rocks, so anything that we can do to kind of help perpetuate the fact that there's money and effort being put towards, the language and cultural diversity of these websites, but we have to help them understand initially that it's even there to begin with. And I think that's a super impactful thing to do. And QR code is next to free.
Exactly.
So.
We do push our Spanish language Facebook page a fair amount, and we provide subtitles in Spanish on most of the videos that we produce. Occasionally, when resources to produce content in Spanish from the go.
Elvira Diaz, by the record, this 4th of July, I decided to stay home and watch the fireworks from my house. I can see the fireworks. And I went to the Facebook page in Spanish. I was crazy. I went there to like and share and oh my God, that's my city. So it feels it's very cost-effective Facebook page. And for me, the serious parts, the communication, like the TikToks and the rapid, I use it a lot because it's fast and easy. Yeah. And I think we went some kind of war. So just add a little spicy with Spanish sometimes. And also invite people, for example, you go to the marina, I live very close by the marina. You go walking, probably half of the people are Latinos walking with the families and dogs. So maybe that could be a good place to kind of post some kind of,
flyers at least or something.
Something permanent to welcome to City Parks. Yeah. Something because, like you mentioned, Roberto, I'm very happy that you mentioned that. It's very easy, and then we can connect to the Facebook page. And many Latinos, we love Facebook. And also we love WhatsApp. I was talking to my job. We like WhatsApp. I don't know if you guys use WhatsApp, but we WhatsApperos and Facebookeros. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Roberto Castillo for the record. Again, it's super simplistic. QR code, 30-second, and I don't know that it even needs to be over the top expensive for production value. Even if you have the mayor say, bienvenidos, hola, Sparks, los queremos mucho. These are all simple phrases that anybody that, even if you hear it on a marginal basis, you're going to be like, wow, that seems completely out of the normal facet. I mean, in regards to what you're saying, and obviously what you guys have taken to implement this board, we don't have to get Hollywood. It could just be as easily as just putting out a T-shirt, bienvenidos to Sparks, on the front, and, isn't it great to live in Sparks on the back? Something super kitschy like that. Again, it gets the traction of the fact that it's more than just one thing. There's a lot of cultures that are being blended, and I'll tell you what, my fellow Filipino members in the city, the food, the culture, the music, a lot of it is very congealed with the Hispanic background as well. And the second that you make Latinos feel more, included in the thing, will make them feel more included, and then the Asian population will feel more included because Filipinos are partly Asian and part Latino, so it's a very easy gap to bridge. But it has to start with a very small, simplistic thing like a scratch and sniff sticker that you take home from your kid. You know, when I got here to the United States in '84, that's how they motivated me to learn English. Hooked on phonics, and they would give you those scratch and sniff stickers that we didn't even know existed in Panama, and you would show your parents and like, oh wow, you did a great job. But it was literally a 1/10 of a cent sticker that you got on a thing that showcased to your parents, hey, he's doing a great thing. So some little things. It's amazing how little things will kind of perpetuate, a certain sentiment of progress, I guess.
I know Elvira Diaz for the record, we have Sparks High School, and we have the other high school in, what's the name? Reed High School. Sorry, my brain. In Reed High School, we have a paleteria, just to let you know. It's a Latino paleteria, the mess is fresh. And we can, sometimes I go there just to buy, they have something like Mexican stuff. Like, it's not Mexican food, it's Mexican like, treats that antojitos, like you want to feel. They're healthy too. So we can put in those locations. We have the high school, and we have also tortas, el Chavo del Ocho. El Chavo del Ocho is a Mexican character, like very important for our families, and they have the Chavo del Ocho torta. So we do have, and when we embrace, for example, in the taco event that we have, they have the music and stuff. People tell me, you guys making changes. I'm not making changes. We're all making changes together. So little Spanish spice is important. Thank you.
Whatever it is.
Perfect. I think that's a good segue to comments from the committee.
If we could open the public hearing
Oh,
formally.
yes.
We do have a couple members of the public. I don't know
Yes,
if
I
anyone-
apologize. Can we open it for public comment?
Hi, David Morlett, Spark Citizen Advisory Committee. I just want to talk more about what we do on the committee. So we get presented to by everyone. The Hopes team has been out. We've gone over the budget. We even toured Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility. So it's kind of our job to be in the know. So that's kind of why I want to get so much more people in these seats, because people like you who want to be involved, who are in this community, who need to know these things, we're that medium. On top of that, we also have some kind of basic relationship with Spark City Council. This is the fifth time I've ran in Councilman Paul in 2 weeks, unplanned. And it's part of my ambassador program. And I have also presented this to the Spark Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, and I believe they are interested in even starting their own ambassador program. So perhaps this could be something that you guys are inspired to do. I don't know. But being out there and connecting with people is how you guys bridge that gap. It's how we do that 50%. You meet them halfway. And it's going to get people to these kind of meetings that we need to get there. So again, I invite you guys again to come out July 17th. It's here at 5:30. And bring out any business owners you know, anyone that has any concerns, anyone running for office. They should be here. Everyone should be here. And in these events that I've gone to, I've connected with people who are retired. I've connected with veterans. And now I've connected with you. So if we can be that bridge that brings this community together, where we can all be heard, where we can all have a place to communicate with our elected officials, to hopefully get some progress done in whatever direction it needs to happen, let's do that. So that's my invitation to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. We appreciate the work you're doing. And the invite. Any more public comment? No, we'll move on to agenda item 8.1. Are there any requests for new future agenda items? No, we'll move on to 8.2. Are there any committee member announcements?
Kia Sanders for the record. After, we're obviously on the latter end of this meeting, I wanted to thank the city of Spark because they did table at this year's annual Juneteenth festival. And they were there giving out swag. My son has like 3 chargers. He knows nothing to do. It's like popping them out like, oh, thank you. You know, so it was just good to see them out there tabling at a very diverse event and just, you know, showcasing the great work that the city of Sparks does. So I just wanted to thank you guys.
Elvira Diaz for the record. I also want to also thank you for the Taco Fest. I think the community was super excited. These days are very hot. I worked so hard. I went to Detroit, so I was not here. But the people were very excited, the kids dancing, people who are business owners, so they want to have extra money, they put the booths. So give a little spice to the community. So the organizers of the event also very, very happy. So I appreciate that we are open up for that. Thank you.
All right, on to agenda item 8.3. Any staff announcements?
I don't have any, thank you.
Agenda item 9. Once again, we'd like to open it up for public comment.
If I may. Paul Anderson for the record, City Council member for Ward 3. And I know every time I come before you guys, I say the same thing. Thank you. Thank you for what you guys are doing, volunteering your time, making a difference. I mean, as you saw in the survey, it was because of your ideas and your thoughts moving that forward to where now we get to glean through it and go, okay, how do we make our city even better? How do we make it a better place? So I have a whole list of notes from things that you guys brought up, questions you've asked, some great ideas on how we can move forward. But the one thing, and kind of going off of Mr. Morlet's comments, it's you guys are the conduit to our community, and you're in diverse parts of our community that I might not hear from. And so I just want to encourage you to please engage your communities that you're involved in, your businesses, your homes and family and kids, all of those folks to get the word back to where now we can have a conversation about things that we might not know about. I mean, honestly, I know that roads are one of our biggest concerns. I mean, if you ever come to one of our budget workshops, you'll hear me say, I'm really concerned about our roads. Yes, we're on the higher end of quality as a region, but they're dropping. And if you look long-term, our revenue is dropping. The majority of our funding comes from fuel tax. Cars are getting better fuel mileage, not buying as much fuel. Oh, we've got electric vehicles that aren't paying any tax that we're seeing to be able to repair the roads. So some of those things are structurally things that we cannot necessarily fix on our own, but we're going to have to go to legislators and get money in other avenues. I mean, like you saw that yellow section where they were the most dissatisfied. That's an area where we get our federal seed community block grant funds. And if you look, the majority of the projects where we use those funds are in Ward 1. But even at that, we still have a long way to go. But I just want to encourage you to continue to do what you're doing, reach into the community, bring ideas to us, because it may be that you're seeing something or someone you talk to, your neighbor, has a great idea that can help us think through some of these solutions that we can come to. But I just want to say thank you so very much. I'm so proud of the work you guys are doing, and truly you're doing great. And Allison, always awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other public comment? Then I move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.